All right, I'm going to throw out some names to you, Nick, and you tell me the dumbest thing they ever did, okay?
Okay.
Ant-Man.
Remember that time he told Luis where he and 2 other fugitives were hiding so that the FBI could come find them?
Thanos.
Remember that time he told Nebula to go get the Infinity Stones while he just sat and waited like 100 yards away?
Doctor Strange.
Remember when he, basically texted and drove and then crashed?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to CBR Saga, CBR's one and only podcast, sponsored by Captain America Knockoff Suit Emporium, where their motto is, hey, you want to look like Cap? Close enough. But enough with corporate sponsorship. Let's talk about dumb decisions. The MCU is filled with some of the smartest minds in the entire universe, and yet almost every character has made at least one dumb decision in their life. But which was the single most facepalmy, cringy, shake your head moment from each of your favorite Avengers? Well, let's discuss. We'll be breaking down the big 3, meaning Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, and we'll throw in the poster child for bad decisions, Star-Lord, as well as some extra boneheaded moves by other heroes if there's time. It's going to be a big, dumb episode, so let's get into it. I'm joined by my co-host, Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Big, dumb episodes are my specialty, actually.
All right, so today we're talking about the Avengers and the heroes, and we all love the heroes, right? I mean, like they're heroic, they do great things, they save the day, they're fun, they're quippy, but sometimes, Nick, they're just dumb. They have to be. And whether that's because, you know, maybe their hubris gets in the way, they're not using their critical thinking skills, or some angry screenwriter needs to get from point A to point B, and the only way to do it is to make the character a little bit dumb. No matter what the reason is, characters make dumb decisions sometimes. So let's start with the face of the MCU for the longest time, and that's Tony Stark. Iron Man, aka the smartest guy, you know, in any room ever. But just because he is so smart and is such a genius on so many levels does not make him infallible. In fact, he makes quite a lot of dumb decisions, I think. I'll start off with this, which I think the single dumbest thing that Tony Stark ever did is create Ultron. And yes, I understand that it stems from the fact that he wanted to, you know, create a security system because he was very paranoid about the big one. But what I just don't understand, because Tony is so drenched in pop culture, he knows everything about pop culture, he throws out quips left and right, that he did not think for the slightest seconds that as soon as he makes an intelligent AI to go online and operate on its own, that it's not immediately going to turn evil. Like, come on, he hasn't watched like a movie, like ever? Like, all AIs turn bad. What was Tony thinking? What do you think?
I agree. It's a pretty dumb decision. And as Nick Fury says when he talks to him, he goes, artificial intelligence. You didn't even hesitate. It was a pretty dumb decision, not gonna lie. However, I think Tony's head was in the right place. He was trying to do the right thing. And if we're being honest, his second shot at artificial intelligence, he got it right. He made Vision. So he just needed that one mess up with Ultron, and then you get Vision. I think a dumber decision, or a dumber move by Tony Stark is, I don't know, getting drunk in your suit and then fighting your best friend so that your suit then falls into the hands of the villain of the movie. I think that might just be a little bit dumber.
You think that's dumber than creating an artificial intelligence that's going to wipe out the whole world? You swept that under the rug. You're just like, yeah, he got his second try. Like, his second try was pretty good, but yeah, you're not taking into account that his first try almost destroyed everything. That does not give him a free pass that he got it right the second time.
I agree. I agree. It doesn't give him a free pass. However, I just think if you look at sort of why he made that decision, it makes it look a lot less dumb. Like, he's trying to protect the world. He's trying to create a suit of armor. Yes, it didn't work out right, and had he thought it out a little bit more, he might have decided not to do it. But I think if you look at the reasons why he gets drunk in his suit and fights his friend, there really aren't many other than, like, he's dying, so he's basically saying, okay, screw everyone.
And that's, you said it right there. He's dying, Nick. Right. He needs to let loose a little bit. And yes, he gets a little intoxicated and makes dumb decisions, but he was making those dumb decisions while drunk. And yes, it was probably a stupid choice to get drunk while in the suit. The choices that he makes, you know, while he's stumbling around in his probably super heavy Iron Man suits that I just don't know how he functions and walks around in normally. You had to talk about free passes, and I'm sure this isn't a free pass, but I'm just saying it's more understandable when he's drunk making stupid decisions than when he's in complete control of his actions and thinking like, hey, you know what? This artificial intelligence that's always going to, be super smart and learning and adaptive, and I'm just going to create it to be so smart that as soon as it's online, within like 1.5 seconds, it decides humanity needs to go. I mean, come on.
hey, just because he's dying does not mean he has the right to make stupid decisions and put people in danger and like shoot watermelons out of the sky with several innocent people around. And then that's the reason his suit ends up in the hands of Justin Hammer, and that's the reason people almost die when Whiplash gets a hold of the technology. The last thing I'll say is that the Ultron decision was a team effort. It was a team dumb decision. It was him and Bruce, two of the smartest people in the universe, who couldn't figure this out. So I don't put that decision all on Tony, even though it's largely his fault.
Bruce was bullied into that. Bruce was like, I don't want to do this, and Tony's like, let's do it. And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, Bruce would give in to any peer pressure in high school, like in any sort of. He's the guy who's like, are all of your friends jumping off the bridge? Would you do it too? Bruce would, because Tony just talks really fast at him.
While I do not concede the fact that getting drunk in the suit and fighting your best friend is a dumb decision, I will say that the Ultron thing's pretty bad.
And I agree, your thing is pretty dumb too. Come on, Tony, you're supposed to be smarter. But let's move away from, like a genius at first to just, kind of a regular guy, someone who was an everyday scrawny little shrimp and then became, Captain America. Of course, I'm talking about Steve Rogers. Nick, what do you think is Steve Rogers' dumbest decision in the MCU?
To me, this is a guy who's not supposed to be as smart as someone like Tony Stark, and yet he makes way better decisions and does incredibly smarter things. I think Steve Rogers' dumbest decision is why did he crash the plane instead of turn it around? I love that movie. That is one of my favorite movies in the MCU. But why did he crash the plane instead of either A, turning it around and crashing it in like the ocean, or B, turning it to crash and then jumping out? You're a super soldier. Crash the plane and then jump out the back.
I guess that is especially true, actually, when you say that. Especially when in like the Winter Soldier, it starts off with him jumping out without a parachute. Like, Correct. He doesn't need one. He says, it's like, I don't, and then that's the whole funny joke. Like, did he just jump without a parachute? So obviously he doesn't need it. He's most likely gonna be fine. But I blame his hero complex. I mean, he was so convinced that what he needed to do was crash that safely to save the day that he wouldn't even give it, because if he did jump out where he probably could survive, then there's a chance that the plane wouldn't crash, or maybe something would happen where it would go off and hurt a ton of people. He needed to be the one to crash it down, I think, as I come up with a justification on the spot. I'm going to go with the one that I always think about a lot when I think about Captain America's dumb decisions. Yes, he does make some boneheaded moves like hiding the truth from Tony about Bucky killing his parents, and that created this, this whole problem. But I still think his dumbest decision, and I still stand by it even though Falcon and the Winter Soldiers is starting to prove me otherwise, is that Cap gave the shield to Falcon when Bucky was standing literally 10 feet away. Like, I get the fact that Falcon is his right-hand man, that Falcon should be Captain America, but Captain America, Steve Rogers, what are you doing? Bucky is a super soldier, right? He is everything that you need to be. Falcon said it in an earlier movie about the fact that he does everything that Cap does except slower. You can't have that person as Captain America. You need someone who is a super soldier, who's going to be super strong. And yes, maybe it's going to lead to Falcon becoming a super soldier-esque character on his own, but Cap probably didn't know that at the time. Plus, the fact that he robbed Bucky of his emotional, catharsis of fully transitioning back from his brainwashed Winter Soldier to redeeming his patriotic nature would have been the smarter choice on all levels.
You are not alone in thinking this. I know several people who agree with you on the point you just made. I am not one of them. You could not be more wrong. That is the best decision ever, and here's why. Steve Rogers was chosen to be Captain America before he was a super soldier. He was chosen because of what's on the inside. He was chosen because of his heart. He was chosen because of his gut, because of his head. He wasn't chosen because he's a super soldier. The best thing they did is set up Falcon to be this moral human being. The first time we see him, he's talking at like a veterans meeting of people with PTSD. He does nothing but the right decisions. He makes the right decisions all the time. He follows the right people, and he always does what's right. He does what Captain America does, just slower, but the point is he's doing what Captain America does. You know who doesn't do what Captain America does, Jacoby? Bucky, who goes around and kills people for several decades and then nearly kills the Avengers because his head's brainwashed. I feel for the guy. It's not his fault, but the fact of the matter is you cannot take this guy who has been a Soviet assassin for several years and then make him the symbol of America just because he's a little bit stronger than Falcon.
Yeah, he probably should have. He probably should have found any other solution at all to his plane crashing. But I'll just say, on the bright side of him crashing down, it allowed him to be frozen and come back at a later time and save the world. If he was smarter in your moment and found any other workaround, like probably anybody else would have, then he would have been alive in the 40s, and then, you know, who knows what would have happened in the 2012s when the Avengers took over and he wasn't there. So his dumb decision led to big things.
Had he not made that decision, we'd be in a much worse place. I agree. My point is, he did not know that he was going to become, he thought he was going to die. He did not know he was going to become frozen in ice and then wake up 70 years later. So
man,
the boneheadedness of the decision still stands.
I kind of wish he did, of just like think it's like, if I crash into this water, like I think I'll probably be frozen solid for a good amount of time until somebody finds me. Or if he crashes, like I'm sure Howard Stark will find me pretty quickly because, you know, this is a massive ship and it's hard to lose track of this sort of thing. So if I crash, there's a chance that they'll find me, you know, within like a few days or so. And then Howard Stark found the Tesseract,
exactly,
which was behind him, and then just like, okay, we got the Tesseract, let's give up everywhere else.
That's a fantastic point.
Thor's been through a lot, character-wise. He's basically changed into a new character in my eyes. But I think there's one decision that's talked about the most in terms of dumb decisions for Thor, and that's he didn't go for the head. And yes, you could say like if he did go through the head, there would be no movie and then all that stuff. But I like the explanation of why he didn't go for the head against Thanos is because he was being a little cocky. He was being arrogant. He wanted Thanos to look into his eyes while he killed him and to know that he had lost. And that hubris ultimately cost them everything, because Thanos just like can apparently take an axe to the chest in stride and just keep going. But what do you think about Thor?
So there's a couple moments. One could be Thor deciding to go fight on Jotunheim at the beginning of Thor, which winds up getting him banished to Earth by his father. That was a pretty dumb move.
Yeah.
Every time Loki tricks him, eventually he finally comes around in Thor Ragnarok when Loki tries to like leave, but he puts the electrocution device on him.
Right.
But it takes him 1,500 years to figure out that his brother is going to trick him every chance he gets. At the end of the day, you're right. The dumbest decision is not to go for Thanos' head, and you're right. It's because he watched Thanos kill his friend Heimdall and kill his brother at the beginning of Infinity War. It's because of those reasons that he wanted that extra moment just to be like, yeah, see, you lost, and that's what cost him. So I agree. His hubris made him do something dumb, and it cost half the universe.
But what I really love about this dumb decision, because I think it is a dumb decision, but what I like is the after effects of it. A lot of the dumb decisions we've talked about for both for Iron Man and Captain America didn't really have any repercussions to the characters. I think that's Tony Stark's biggest thing, is that he doesn't really learn a lot from his stuff, like a whole lot. He keeps making the same mistakes, and Captain America never really bothered to think like, or nobody ever brought up like, hey, you could have jumped out or done anything else before. But Thor had to grapple with his dumb decision and took it upon himself to really feel the weight of the loss, and that's what led to a fat Thor, which is, funny on the surface, deeply depressing underneath. So so even though this was a dumb decision, I liked how they handled it in terms of having Thor grapple with it and know about his dumb decision. And then we even, sure, it didn't, this happened a little bit beforehand, but when they actually faced Thanos that second time, as like immediately after, when they go try to get the stones, Thor doesn't hesitate. Thor cuts off his head, was like when he gets the chance to. So you actually see Thor learn from his dumb decision by suffering the consequences from it, which I think was really neat.
I agree. They handle it perfectly. It is a dumb decision, but the way it makes Thor grow as a character, which is crazy, because you'd think of all people, a guy who's lived like 1,500, 2,000 years would be done growing. But the fact of the matter is, the lesson is that you're always growing. No matter how long you live, how long you're alive, you're always growing, you're always learning. So
the lesson is, as soon as Taika Waititi comes in, you'll start to learn more.
Exactly. Taika Waititi will teach us everything. When Thor goes and kills Thanos at the beginning of Endgame, you can see he knows he messed up last time, and he's trying desperately to fix it by doing it right this time, but there's nothing that can fix it because he doesn't get a second chance, essentially, until 5 years later. So it's a very hard lesson Thor had to learn, and I actually loved what they did with him in learning that lesson and, like, accepting his essentially first failure.
learning from your failure for all of that is going to be necessary for like our last pick that I want to talk about, because Star-Lord gets a lot of flack for what many people probably say is the dumbest decision in the MCU ever. And like, he got too emotional. They were winning against Thanos, and then, you know, he punched Thanos, snapped him out, and then he was able to get away. But it's very similar, I guess. At least I hope it's similar in terms of Thor, where he made a dumb decision based on emotion and will hopefully learn from it. You know, like, do you think Star-Lord will learn from his big boneheaded mistake?
Star-Lord doesn't strike me as much of the learning type. I think he would be a lot harder to like get a message across to than someone like Thor or like Tony. But I think it's possible. The thing that really sticks with me about this decision is like, I get the emotion. I get that you're angry in the moment and you act out in rage. You hit him with a gun. You were holding a gun in your hand and you hit him in the face with it. Why didn't you shoot him? You were standing point blank from the guy who killed your love. Shoot him. Why are you punching him with a gun? That is the dumbest part of all of it, in my opinion. But
so that's hilarious. So it's a dumb decision, but it's a dumb decision, because he doesn't even do the dumb decision correctly. He does the dumb decision dumbly.
Exactly. And many people will say, myself included, that Doctor Strange told us that there's only one way we win this. So clearly Star-Lord needed to do that in order to win it. But it doesn't take away the fact that if you're in that moment, any person thinking rationally would not do that.
So in a lot of ways, so it's like, if they were all thinking rationally in that moment, they wouldn't have lost. So you need a dumb move by Star-Lord, who does what he does best, is make dumb moves sometimes, you know, going back to things like, you know, his dance off, where he's just being dumb. But that actually leads to further success. So maybe if you frame it that way, his move is actually genius. It allows him to make a dumb decision that's completely in character that ultimately goes on to, you know, save the entire universe.
I don't know if genius is the word I would use, but yes, I see what you I see what you're getting at. The thing I'll say about Star-Lord possibly learning from this, I think there's potential, because now Star-Lord has gone through something, not only with his mother, but with Gamora. Like, he has lost her once. He has gone through that. He knows what it feels like. So if he's standing in that scenario again, he's maybe more ready for that overcoming of emotion that overtook him and caused him to punch Thanos in the face. So maybe next time he's in that situation where he thinks he's lost a loved one, he will think back to that moment where he blew it and maybe act differently.
I think that kind of wraps up our main four that at least I wanted to discuss. But let's, I'm trying to think of other big, dumb, boneheaded decisions in the MCU done by any other heroes. Can you think of any?
I think there's two that come to mind. The obvious one is Spider-Man trusted a guy named Mysterio. And gave him these all-powerful glasses that were left in his possession.
Like, immediately. Just because he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal and just seems like kind of a nice guy, it's like he just gave it to him. He trusted him. Peter Parker, come on, dude. Oh, yeah, you're right. That was pretty dumb. That might be one of the top ones.
It's such a slap in the face, because Tony, like, left a note and he was like, I trust you. These are yours. I trust you. And Peter's like, okay, well, if Tony trusts me, I'm gonna give him away then. It's like, how do you arrive at that conclusion?
He's like, I'm making the right choice here. But now I get to go enjoy my European vacation. So
exactly, yeah.
And he's a good guy, this Mysterio guy. I can trust him. You're right, that's pretty dumb.
I think we can give a little leniency to Peter because he's a kid, but at the end of the day, you got some pretty big powers. A lot of people trust you there, guy. You're gonna have to be smarter.
Right. And I'm gonna think the other boneheaded decision that you're thinking of is it with Quicksilver?
It might be with Quicksilver.
I agree, because Quicksilver, this whole thing was just the most head-scratching, dumb move ever. Quicksilver, the fastest guy probably in the world, with super speed, decides to use his super strength to move a car in the way of Hawkeye, but not protect his own fleshy human body. Like, it seems like there were so many different avenues out. Like, he could have put the car in and then also got behind the car. He could have used his strength, which he used to obviously can because he can move a car, to move Hawkeye and, you know, that whatever civilian kid to like get out of the way. But nope, he wants to put the car in the way and let his body become target practice.
So everyone in this scene is kind of a dumb decision to me, in my opinion. First of all, just to touch on the kid briefly, that kid just gets up when Hawkeye gets to him. Hawkeye, I think you might be a little wrong, Jacoby. I think Quicksilver actually moves Hawkeye and the kid behind the car. I don't think he actually moves a car.
Oh, okay.
So, which makes it even dumber, because if he has the time to push them behind the car, why would he not also run behind the car and hide there with them? And then Hawkeye, if he's that close to a car, Why would he turn around and like accept his fate instead of just taking a step to the left behind the car? This whole scene frustrates me when I watch it because it's just full of boneheaded decisions. I agree, Quicksilver's the fastest, and we see how he reacts to bullets in the fight in Sokovia. Like, yes, they're a little bit faster than he is, but like he is so fast he can like see them going through the air. He should have plenty of time to move Hawkeye and the kid and then get out of the way.
So this might be the dumbest decision because it's a collective dumb, because everybody in it has to be dumb
yes.
in order for it to work. Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yes, so death, destruction, all happens because people just didn't take a second to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't stand directly in the way of this plane that's like firing bullets at me.
All right, well, I think that about wraps up our discussion about boneheaded decisions in the MCU. Tell us who you think made the biggest boneheaded decision in any MCU movie that you've seen, and yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments. I would like to thank Nick so much for joining us today, and hopefully we don't make any dumb decisions, you know, like any of these MCU characters. Thank you all very much for watching CBR Saga, CBR's best and one and only podcast, and we'll see you next time.